Captain Li Sujin walked slowly through the massive doors of the Coalition Council chamber. Her black uniform looked small and plain next to the huge alien structures around her. The room was bigger than 3 football fields, with walls that stretched up so high she could barely see the ceiling. Strange lights floated in the air, casting rainbow colors on everything. Behind her, Ambassador Park Min-ho carried a small silver case containing Earth's formal request for membership. His hands were steady, but Sujin could see sweat on his forehead. Chief Scientist Kim Tae-woo walked beside them, his eyes moving constantly as he tried to record everything with his hidden scanner. The 3 humans looked tiny as they approached the center of the chamber. Around them, dozens of alien species sat on floating platforms or strange curved seats. Some looked like giant insects with too many arms. Others were made of pure light that changed colors when they moved. The most frightening ones looked like living crystals, taller than trees, with sharp edges that caught the light. The primitive species from Sol 3 requests an audience, announced a mechanical voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. A wave of sounds filled the chamber. The crystal beings made noises like breaking glass. The light creatures buzzed like electrical wires. The insect-like aliens clicked their sharp teeth together. It took Sujin a moment to realize they were laughing. The largest crystal being leaned forward on its platform. When it spoke, its voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "You call yourselves humans? Yes? What exactly do you want from the Dominion Coalition?" Park Min-ho stepped forward and opened his case. Inside was a simple data pad with Earth's proposal written in dozens of alien languages. "Honored delegates, we come seeking peaceful membership in your great alliance. We offer our knowledge, our resources, and our friendship." The laughter grew louder. One of the insect creatures stood up on 6 legs and pointed at the humans with 3 different arms. "Knowledge. What knowledge could your species possibly possess that we do not already know better?" Kim Tae-woo cleared his throat. "We have made advances in quantum mechanics, genetic medicine, and artificial intelligence that might interest your scientists." A being made of purple light flickered brighter. "Child's play. We mastered those concepts when your star was still forming." The crystal leader's eyes glowed brighter. "Your species has existed for what, 200,000 years. We have ruled this galaxy for 50 million. You have barely learned to leave your own star system while we command fleets that span 1,000 worlds." Sujin felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her voice calm. "Every species was young once. We learn quickly and adapt well. Given the chance, we could contribute much to the coalition." "Adapt." The insect delegate's laughter sounded like metal scraping metal. "Your people still fight wars over pieces of dirt. You poison your own planet. Half your population lives in poverty, while the other half wastes resources. You call this adaptation?" The light being pulsed with different colors. "We have watched your species for centuries. You are violent, unpredictable, and primitive. Your technology is crude. Your society is chaotic. You have nothing we need or want." Park Min-ho tried again. "Perhaps we could start with simple trade agreements. Cultural exchanges. We have art, music, literature that might..." "Noise," interrupted another crystal being. "Random sounds and scribbles. We have created beauty beyond your comprehension for millions of years." Kim Tae-woo's hand moved slightly, and his scanner recorded the energy patterns of the floating platforms. No one noticed. "What about our diversity?" "Humans are highly adaptable. We survive in environments from frozen wastelands to burning deserts. Cockroaches also survive in many environments," clicked the insect leader. "This does not make them valuable allies." The chamber erupted in more alien laughter. Sujin watched as dozens of species all agreed on one thing. Humans were nothing special. They were primitive, weak, unworthy. The crystal leader raised one massive arm, and the chamber fell silent. "Small creatures from the small world, you have wasted our time with this foolishness." The Dominion Coalition is an alliance of advanced civilizations. We do not accept pets or primitive species who have barely learned to make fire. We have nuclear fusion, faster-than-light communication, and advanced robotics, Sujin said, her voice growing harder. Toys, the light being buzzed. Simple toys that we gave up playing with before your species existed. The crystal leader's voice became final. Return to your little world. Grow up, evolve. Perhaps in a few million years, when you have learned to control your violent nature and developed real technology, you may try again. Until then, do not bother us with your presence. Is that your final answer? Park Minho asked quietly. It is our only answer, the crystal leader replied. Guard units will escort you back to your primitive ship. Do not return until you have something worthwhile to offer. As security drones surrounded them, Kim Tae-woo's scanner finished copying the energy signatures of every weapon system in the chamber. His face showed nothing, but his mind was already working on how to duplicate what he had recorded. The three humans walked out in silence, but each carried something more dangerous than they had brought in. They carried the absolute certainty that the galaxy saw them as nothing more than insects to be stepped on. The Coalition had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. Dr. Han Yuri was checking the morning readings from the quantum lab when the first explosion shook Research Station Alpha 7. Coffee spilled across her desk as the lights flickered. She looked up from her computer screen, confused. Nothing was scheduled for today, except routine experiments. Attention all personnel. This is not a drill. Commander Choi Daean's voice crackled over the station speakers. We have unknown ships approaching. All non-essential staff report to emergency stations immediately. Yuri ran to the nearest window and pressed her face against the thick glass. In the distance, she could see massive shapes moving against the stars. The ships were nothing like the human vessels that brought supplies each month. These were huge, dark, and covered in strange lights that pulsed like angry heartbeats. Her personal communicator buzzed. Mom, what's happening? It was her daughter, Minji, calling from the education center, where children lived while their parents worked on the station. Just stay where you are, sweetheart. Do exactly what your teachers tell you, Yuri said, trying to keep her voice steady. Daddy and I will come get you soon. But even as she spoke, she could see more ships appearing. Dozens of them. They surrounded the research station like wolves circling their prey. These were not human ships. These were Coalition vessels. The station's defense systems activated automatically. Small laser cannons emerged from hidden ports and began firing at the approaching fleet. The weapons had been designed to destroy asteroids and space debris. Against Coalition warships, they might as well have been throwing rocks. Commander Choi's voice returned to the speakers, more urgent now. All hands, we are under attack by Coalition forces. This is not a misunderstanding. Repeat, we are under hostile attack. Begin evacuation procedures immediately. Yuri ran through the corridors, toward the family quarters where her husband worked. The station shook again, harder this time. Emergency lights flashed red, and she could hear the terrible sound of metal tearing somewhere in the distance. She found her husband Junho, helping other families into escape pods. Yuri, thank God you're safe, he said, grabbing her hand. Where's Minji? Education Center, Section 7, she gasped. We have to get her. Junho shook his head. The escape pods from that section launched already. She's safe. Look. He pointed to a monitor, showing dozens of small pods racing away from the station, toward the nearest planet. But as they watched, something terrible happened. The Coalition ships began firing at the escape pods. Not warning shots, not attempts to disable them. Direct hits that turned the pods into brief flashes of light against the darkness of space. No, Yuri whispered. No, they wouldn't. Those are civilians, children. The monitor showed pod after pod being destroyed. Each flash of light was someone's family, someone's child, someone's future disappearing forever. Commander Choi appeared beside them, his face grim. Emergency Pod 7. Now, it's our last chance. As they ran, Yuri heard a voice over the Coalition communication channel. The translation came through clearly. Attention primitive species. This action is taken to remind all lesser civilizations of their proper place. Do not attempt to develop beyond your natural limitations. The voice was calm, almost bored, like someone reading a shopping list. They're killing us to make a point, Junho said, in disbelief. We're not even a threat to them. They reached the escape pod bay just as another massive explosion rocked the station. Through the viewport, you could see the education section where her daughter had been. It was gone, just twisted metal and empty space where hundreds of children had lived and learned just minutes before. Get in the pod, Choi ordered. We need survivors to tell Earth what happened here. As their pod launched, Yuri watched Research Station, Alpha 7, break apart piece by piece. The Coalition ships took their time, methodically destroying every section. They wanted to make sure nothing survived. No research, no people, no hope. But they had made one mistake. The station's automatic systems had uploaded all research data to Earth the moment the attack began. Everything the scientists had learned about reverse engineering Coalition technology was safely stored in hidden databases back home. The pod's emergency beacon activated, sending their location to any human ships in the area. But Yuri wasn't thinking about rescue. She was thinking about her daughter's last message. Mom, what's happening? She was thinking about the casual voice of the Coalition commander, who had ordered the deaths of 3,000 humans like he was discussing the weather. She was thinking about how the aliens had destroyed escape pods full of children and families, broadcasting it across their empire, as entertainment. Commander Choi sat across from her in the cramped pod, his hands clenched into fists. They didn't just attack us, he said quietly. They made sure we'd see them murder civilians. They wanted us to know they could kill anyone, anywhere, anytime. Why? Yuri asked. Because they think we don't matter, Choi replied. Because they see us as insects. Because they wanted to send a message to Earth. Stay in your place, or this happens to your home world. The rescue ship found them 18 hours later. By then, the Coalition fleet was gone. Research Station Alpha 7 was nothing but debris floating in space. 3,000 people had been murdered for the crime of being human in a galaxy that saw them as worthless. But as Yuri watched Earth grow larger on the rescue ship's screens, she knew something had changed forever. The Coalition had tried to teach humanity a lesson about fear. Instead, they had taught them about hate. 2 years had passed since the attack on Research Station Alpha 7. To the outside galaxy, humanity had gone quiet. Earth's communications with other species stopped completely. Human ships no longer traveled beyond their own solar system. The Coalition leaders were pleased with this result. The primitive species had learned their lesson. But deep beneath the city of Seoul, in a facility that did not appear on any official maps, Dr. Han Yuri worked 18 hours every day. Her hair had turned gray from stress and sleepless nights. Her hands shook sometimes when she held tools, but her mind was sharper than ever. The hidden laboratory was filled with pieces of alien technology that had been secretly collected over many years. Fragments of Coalition weapons, parts of their communication systems, samples of their armor and shields. Most importantly, the complete data from Research Station Alpha 7 that had been uploaded moments before the attack. Status report, Yuri said as she entered the main lab. Around her, 50% of Earth's best scientists worked at tables covered with strange alien devices. Dr. Kim Tae-woo looked up from a glowing crystal fragment. We've cracked the Vorthok power system. Their entire technology depends on specific sound frequencies that make their crystals vibrate in certain patterns. And the weakness? Yuri asked. Simple. Hit them with the wrong frequency, and their crystals shatter like glass. Their weapons, their armor, their ships, everything breaks. At another table, Dr. Park Minho was working with what looked like a ball of liquid light. The Nexari energy beings are more complicated. They exist as pure energy, held together by magnetic fields. But I've found a way to disrupt those fields. Show me, Yuri said. Park activated a small device. The ball of energy suddenly collapsed, becoming nothing more than ordinary light that faded away. Once their magnetic field is broken, they simply stop existing. No trace left behind. Ruri nodded and moved to the third table, where Dr. Lee Soo-jin was examining insect-like mechanical parts. These came from captured Kethtor equipment. The hive mind species was the hardest to understand, Lee explained, but I finally figured out how they think. They share thoughts through bioneural networks. Every Kethtor is connected to others, through invisible signals. That sounds like a strength, not a weakness, Yuri said. It is, until you realize what happens when you cut those connections or send false signals into their network. Individual Kethtar become confused and helpless. Groups of them start fighting each other. The whole system falls apart. Yuri smiled. For the first time in months. Excellent work, all of you. How long until we can build weapons based on these discoveries? The prototypes are ready now, Kim replied. We've been testing them for weeks. They work perfectly. On the other side of Seoul, in a military base that was even more secret, Colonel Choi Dae-hyun was training a very different kind of soldier. The men and women in his program were not like regular army troops. They moved like shadows. They struck without warning. They disappeared before anyone knew they had been there. Listen carefully, Choi told his trainees as they gathered in the briefing room. Everything you learned about fighting before today is useless. We are not fighting an enemy we can beat with bigger guns or more soldiers. We are fighting species that have ruled the galaxy for millions of years. Sergeant Major Yoon Sung-ho raised his hand. Then how do we win, sir? By being what they don't expect us to be. The Coalition sees us as primitive barbarians who charge straight at our enemies, so we become invisible. They think we're too stupid to understand their technology, so we turn their own weapons against them. They believe we're too emotional to plan properly, so we become colder and more calculating than they are. Captain Park Jin-woo spoke up. What about their superior numbers and firepower? Numbers don't matter if you strike the right targets at the right time, Choi replied. One person with the right knowledge can disable an entire enemy ship. A small team can destroy a whole base if they know exactly where to hit. For months, the ghost units trained in secret. They learned to move without making sound. They practiced attacking and escaping before alarms could sound. Most importantly, they studied their enemies. Every Coalition species had weaknesses that came from millions of years of easy victories. They had grown soft and careless. Lieutenant Colonel Moon Hae-jin specialized in Nexari targets. She learned their patrol patterns, their communication methods, their overconfidence in their energy-based technology. They think being made of energy makes them untouchable, she told her team. We'll show them how wrong they are. Captain Park Jin-woo focused on Vorthok installations. The crystal beings were proud of their ancient civilization and advanced science. Pride makes you predictable, he explained to his soldiers. They do the same things, the same way every time, because they think their methods are perfect. Sergeant. Major Yoon studied the Kethtor hive mind. Individual insects are weak, he discovered, but they depend completely on the group. Cut them off from the hive and they become helpless, while the Coalition enjoyed their peaceful rule over the galaxy. Humanity prepared in silence. Dr. Yuri's scientists created weapons that could destroy any Coalition technology. Colonel Choi's ghost units learned to fight like nothing the aliens had ever seen before. The Coalition had taught humanity that the galaxy was ruled by strength and fear. They had shown that civilized behavior meant nothing when dealing with superior force. Now humanity was ready to teach them What happened when you awakened something that had nothing left to lose, and everything to learn from its enemies? The adaptation was complete. The real war was about to begin. The Coalition patrol ship Eternal Glory was making its routine sweep through Sector 7 when it simply vanished. One moment it was there on long-range sensors. The next moment there was nothing. No distress signal. No explosion. No debris floating in space. 300 Coalition crew members had disappeared as if they had never existed. Captain Zethkar, a massive Vorthok crystal being, studied the reports from his command ship. His crystalline body pulsed with confused blue light as he tried to understand what had happened. Technical malfunction, announced his Nexari second-in-command, its energy form flickering yellow with certainty. These older ships sometimes have fusion core failures that leave no trace. Perhaps, Zethkar replied, his voice like grinding stone. But this is the third ship we have lost this month. Internal conflicts, suggested the Kethtar communications officer, clicking its mandibles. Some species in the outer colonies have been restless lately. They probably destroyed each other in a pointless fight. None of them considered that humans might be responsible. The primitive species from Sol 3 had been silent for 2 years. Clearly, they had learned their lesson after the destruction of their research station. But far away, on a hidden asteroid base, Captain Park Jinwoo was reviewing the mission with his Ghost Unit Alpha team. The attack on Eternal Glory had been their first real test, and it had worked perfectly. The sonic disruptors performed exactly as Dr. Han Yuri promised, reported Lieutenant Kim Jamin. The Vorthok crew's crystal bodies shattered the moment we activated them. The Nexari officers simply dissolved when we used the magnetic field. Disruptors, and the Kethtar Park asked. The neural jammers caused complete confusion. They couldn't coordinate or even think clearly. Easy targets. Park nodded with satisfaction. Excellent. Upload all battle data to Earth Command. Ghost Unit Beta begins their mission tomorrow. 3 weeks later, Lieutenant Colonel Moon Hai-jin led her team in an attack on the Nexari energy collection station orbiting Kepler 44-b. The station was massive, powered by the pure energy of its star, and defended by what the Coalition considered impregnable shields. Moon's team approached in a small stealth ship that looked like space debris. The Coalition sensors ignored it completely. Why would primitive humans have stealth technology? Remember, Moon told her soldiers as they prepared to board the station. Nexari beings are made of pure energy, but they still think like living creatures. They have patterns, habits, fears. Use that against them. The attack lasted exactly 17 minutes. Moon's team moved through the station like ghosts, using Dr. Yuri's magnetic disruptors to simply erase every Nexari they encountered. The energy beings didn't even have time to understand what was happening to them before they ceased to exist. But Moon had a special mission beyond just destroying the station. She planted small devices throughout the facility that would broadcast a message to the entire Coalition network. When the station exploded, every screen in Coalition space showed the same words. Remember Research Station Alpha 7, on the Coalition capital world. Supreme Overlord Kethmer received the reports with growing alarm. Her massive insect body trembled as she read about the energy station attack. Impossible, she clicked to her advisors. The humans lack the technology for such precision attacks. They are barely capable of spaceflight. Perhaps we underestimated their recent development, suggested one of her Vorthok generals. 2 years is a long time for a rapidly evolving species. Evolving, Kethmer's mandibles snapped with anger. They are insects, primitive barbarians who should have been destroyed completely after their first insolence. But the attacks continued to escalate. Sergeant Major Yoon Sung-ho specialized in psychological warfare against the Kethter hive colonies. His Ghost Unit Gamma didn't just kill their enemies, they made them afraid. Yoon's first target was a Kethter breeding world, where millions of the insect-like aliens lived in vast underground tunnels. Instead of attacking directly, his team introduced false signals into their bioneural network. The fake messages caused different groups of Kethtor to believe that other groups were traitors planning rebellion. Within hours, the entire colony was at war with itself. Kethtor fought Kethtor in the tunnels, each group convinced that the others had been corrupted by human influence. By the time coalition reinforcements arrived, they found millions of dead insects in empty hives. How did they know about our neural networks? Demanded the surviving Kethtor commander. This information is classified at the highest levels. The answer was simple, but terrifying. Humans learned fast, and they had been studying coalition technology for 2 years, with the focused determination of a species that had nothing left to lose. Captain Park, Jin Woo's next mission targeted a Vorthok crystal garden, a sacred site where the ancient beings grew new crystals for their ships and weapons. The garden had been protected for 10 million years, and was considered absolutely secure. Park's team used mining charges tuned to specific frequencies. When they detonated, every crystal in the garden shattered simultaneously. The sound could be heard across the entire planet, as millions of years of Vorthok civilization crumbled into glittering dust. As reports flooded in from across coalition space, Supreme Overlord Kethmer finally understood the truth. These were not random attacks or technical failures. This was systematic warfare conducted by an enemy that had studied them carefully and learned exactly how to hurt them. Send word to all coalition fleets, she ordered. The human problem must be solved permanently. No more warnings. No more lessons. Complete extermination. But it was already too late. Humanity had adapted to become something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that fought not for conquest or glory, but for justice. And they were very good at it. The ancient capital world of Dominax Prime had never fallen in 50 million years of galactic rule. Its crystal towers reached toward the stars, and its energy shields could stop the weapons of entire fleets. In the heart of the planet, Supreme Overlord Kethmer sat on her massive throne, surrounded by the greatest military minds of the coalition. Status report, she clicked, her enormous insect body trembling with rage. Around her, holographic displays showed red warning lights across half the galaxy. We have lost 60% of our outer territories, reported General Vorthok, his crystal form pulsing with worried blue light. The humans strike without warning and disappear before we can respond. Impossible, hissed Commander Nexera, her energy body flickering with disbelief. They are a primitive species that barely learned space travel 3 years ago. But even as she spoke, the first explosions echoed through the capital's lower levels. Emergency alarms began wailing throughout the massive complex. The humans had found them deep in the building's foundation. Colonel Choi Daehyun led Ghost Unit Prime through corridors that should have been impossible to reach. His team moved like shadows, each soldier carrying weapons specifically designed to kill the species they would encounter. Teams Alpha and Beta, secure the communication center, Choi whispered into his radio. Team Gamma, disable the main power systems. We have 15 minutes before their reinforcements arrive. Behind him, Dr. Han Yuri carried a device that had taken 2 years to perfect. It was designed for one specific target, the bioneural network that connected every Kethtor in the building. When activated, it would turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. Lieutenant Kim Jamin appeared beside them, his face grim. Sir, we've confirmed the target. Supreme Overlord Kethmer is in the throne room, 3 levels up. Heavy guard presence? Vorthok crystal guards? Choi asked. Yes, sir. At least 20 of them, plus Nexari energy beings, and a full Ketho command staff. Perfect, Dr. Yuri said quietly. All 3 species in one room. We can end this war. Right here. They moved through the building like ghosts, using sonic disruptors to shatter any Vorthok guards they encountered. The crystal beings fell silently, their bodies turning to dust before they could sound an alarm. Nexari patrols simply vanished when hit with magnetic field disruptors, their energy forms dispersing into nothing. But the real test came when they reached the throne room doors. Behind those massive barriers sat the most powerful beings in the galaxy, protected by weapons and shields that had never been defeated. Remember, Troy told his team, they still think we're primitive. They expect us to charge in shooting. Instead, we do what humans do best. What's that, sir? Asked Sergeant Park Jinwoo. We adapt. The doors exploded inward, filling the throne room with smoke and confusion. But instead of soldiers charging through, small devices rolled across the floor, each one broadcasting specific frequencies designed to disrupt different alien technologies. Supreme Overlord Kethmer's mandibles clicked an alarm as her crystal guards began to crack and crumble. The Nexari advisors flickered and faded like dying candles. Most terrifying of all, her connection to the hive mind started to weaken as Dr. Ura's neural disruptor filled the air with false signals. Impossible, Kethmer hissed as Colonel Choi stepped through the smoke. You are primitives, barbarians. You cannot possess such technology. Choi's voice was calm and cold. You're right. 3 years ago, we were primitive, but you taught us something important when you murdered 3,000 civilians at Research Station Alpha 7. What did we teach you? The alien queen demanded, her voice shaking as more of her guards collapsed. Dr. Han Yuri emerged from behind a fallen crystal pillar, her device humming with deadly energy. You taught us that the galaxy respects only strength, that civilized behavior means nothing when dealing with superior force, that the strong do whatever they want to the weak. So we became strong, Choi continued. We studied you. We learned your weaknesses. We adapted to become something you never expected. Kethmer's compound eyes widened in terror as she finally understood. You became us. No, Yuri said, her voice filled with quiet pain. We became something worse. You rule through fear and casual cruelty. We fight for justice and the memory of our dead. The last of the coalition guards fell. Emergency power failed throughout the building. In the flickering light, Colonel Choi approached the massive alien queen who had ordered the deaths of so many humans. Supreme Overlord Kethmer, I offer you the same choice your coalition gave humanity 3 years ago, he said. You can evolve, or you can become extinct. You cannot defeat us all. Kethmer clicked desperately. We have ruled for millions of years. We are eternal, eternal. Dr. Yuri activated her neural disruptor at full power. Throughout the building, every Kethter mind connected to the hive network screamed in agony before falling silent. Nothing is eternal. 6 months later, Dr. Han Yuri stood in what had once been the throne room of Dominax Prime. The building was empty now, its alien rulers dead or fled to distant corners of the galaxy. She placed a simple stone monument among the rubble. The inscription was brief. Research Station Alpha 7 Memorial. They didn't fear us until we became their last memory. Around her, human ships patrolled the former coalition capital, but these were not ships of conquest. They were ships of protection, ensuring that no species would ever again have the luxury of underestimating others. The galaxy had learned a new truth. Never awaken something that has nothing left to lose.